So this is a really rough account of the difference between metaethics and normative ethics, and most importantly, why it matters to us in our class. So there's two kinds of fields of ethics. One, metaethics, is about all the sorts of questions like, what is the nature of good, the nature of right and wrong? Is there any such thing as good or bad or right or wrong? Can there be good or bad without there being a God? Can we actually know what's right and wrong? Where do right and wrong come from? Is it all just a matter of opinion, or is there some sort of are there objective moral facts? All those sorts of questions belong to the area of metaethics. Another area of ethics is normative ethics, which that has to do with giving us answers about what we should actually do. So this goes all the way from, from generating and applying moral theories like consequentialism, utilitarianism, deontological views, constructivist theories, all the way down to even more applied things like, should doctors be participating in decisions about the patients ending their own lives? Now, that means that everything we're doing in this class is a form of normative ethics. So we're not going to be talking about whether or not there is such a thing as good or bad, or whether or not these judgments about rightness and wrongness are objective in any relevant way, or if they are just subjective. And this is important because a lot of times in the class, you're probably going to be tempted to say something like, well, wait, isn't that just so-and-so's opinion? Or isn't this all just subjective, right? Why are we even debating about that? Now, these are all really good questions. They're just not the questions we're talking about in this class. So please don't be offended when I say to you, when you raise one of these excellent points, and I say, well, that's an excellent question. It's just not the sort of question we're talking about in this class. So insofar as this class is concerned, what we're talking about are just think of it this way. We're just talking about right and wrong, or what would be right and would be wrong, what would be good, would be bad, if there was such a thing as good and bad and right and wrong. So we can just kind of take everything in this class as implicitly conditional. So whenever you feel the need to ask one of these questions, just remember, we're talking about, for example, is there a moral obligation to give to those in dire need in other countries? Well, that's how we're going to talk about it. But really what we mean is parentheses, if there is such a thing as right and wrong, is there a moral obligation to give to those in other countries who are desperately in need? So as long as you keep that in mind, then a lot of these then there will be some frustration, and maybe at some points we'll have to talk about it. But for the most part, I think we can set aside the bigger meta-ethical questions and just focus on our normative ethics stuff. Now, the last thing to say is that might sound kind of like cheating. And when you're in a class doing philosophy and debating these things at kind of the abstract level, it does seem like cheating. But remember, this is all about the sort of stuff we do all the time in our individual lives. If your friend is cheating on her girlfriend, and you say to her, dude, why are you cheating on your girlfriend? That's wrong. You shouldn't do that. You're making a moral judgment. You don't say to her, well, it's just my opinion, but I believe that you should not cheat on your girlfriend. I mean, maybe some people do, but generally speaking, most of our moral judgments aren't like that. We just kind of pretend as though there's a fact of the matter. And so it's not so far off base for us to be in the philosophy room, even though we're moving to a higher degree of abstraction doing the same thing. We're pretending as if there are facts of the matter and figuring out what they would be. We're debating different people's points of views on these alleged facts, and we're trying to come to some sort of consensus. So that's how the difference between metaethics and normative ethics is going to be important to us. And it just gives me a convenient excuse to pawn off lots of hard questions for another class, which I, of course, hope you'll take.